World News Program coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Marim Zian, and these are the headlines. Israeli airstrikes and renewed artillery fire pound various areas of the Gaza Strip. Gaza's government media office says 2.4 million Palestinians were subjected to a policy of systematic killing throughout 2025, amid widespread condemnation of the occupation's measures targeting international relief agencies. Coming up next, in Sudan, Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says victory is near, vowing to liberate Darfur, Kordofan, and every inch of the country. The army announces it has retaken a strategic area in North Kordofan as the death toll from the Rapid Support Forces shelling of Al-Daling rises to 72. On the Sahrawi issue, the Polisario Front has filed a legal challenge against the latest EU-Morocco trade agreement, saying it was concluded without the European Parliament's oversight. And Sahrawi organizations also condemn the Moroccan occupation's seizure of Sahrawi land and rights. On the war in Ukraine, Russia reports 24 deaths from Ukrainian attacks on Kherson. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow has opened the new year with escalation, stressing he will not sign any deal that prolongs the war. President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, says Russia is confident of victory. The details of your programming at the outset. Zionist occupation aircraft carried out airstrikes and artillery shelling early Thursday morning, targeting various areas across the Gaza Strip. According to media reports, occupation warplanes launched a series of strikes on areas east of Rafah, Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and Jabalia. This came simultaneously with occupation military vehicles opening fire toward areas east of Al Buraij refugee camp in central Gaza. The government media office in Gaza confirmed that more than 2 million Palestinians were subjected to forced displacement and ethnic cleansing in the Strip during 2025. It added that the next phase must be one of ending the genocide, moving seriously toward comprehensive humanitarian recovery, and launching reconstruction efforts in the Strip. The Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor confirmed that the Zionist occupation has halted the activities of 37 major international relief organizations in Gaza from January 1st. The move, which prevents the renewal of operating licenses across the Palestinian territories, was described as a dangerous escalation that violates international law and obstructs rapid life-saving humanitarian aid. UN spokesman Stéphane Dujarric revealed that UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned on Wednesday the Israeli occupation's move to cut electricity and water to facilities belonging to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. Dujarric added in a statement that the move would further hinder the agency's ability to operate and carry out its activities.
The Secretary-General condemns the adoption by the Knesset on 29 December 2025 of amendments to the law to cease UNRWA operations. These amendments seek to further impede UNRWA's ability to operate and carry out its mandated activities. The law and its amendments are inconsistent with the status and international legal framework applicable to UNRWA and must be immediately repealed. UNRWA is an integrated part of the United Nations. The Convention on the Privileges and Immunities of the United Nations remains applicable to UNRWA, its property and assets, and to its officials and other personnel. Property used by UNRWA is inviolable.
The Zionist occupation continues to block the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire under flimsy pretexts aiming to keep its forces in the Strip, as Palestinians endure ongoing bombardment and severe shortages. Osama Ayadi has the report.
Benjamin Netanyahu's government does not appear to intend to fulfill its commitments towards the ceasefire plan in Gaza or prioritize it in the near future. Beyond domestic political calculations and efforts to maintain the fronts, analysts believe that the Zionist entity clearly aims to uphold its occupation of large parts of the Gaza Strip indefinitely.
During this period, the relevant government authorities documented 969 violations of the agreement, including 288 direct shooting incidents targeting civilians and 54 incursions by military vehicles into residential areas. These violations resulted in the deaths of 418 citizens and injuries to 1,141 others.
At a time when Gazans and the Middle East region await permanent peace and stability through at least maintaining the ceasefire and fulfilling the agreement to the fullest, the Zionist entity has shown no interest in reaching the second phase anytime sooner. Although the agreement imposes with its first phase the entrance of aid to the Strip with quantities that guarantee the necessary relief for Palestinians, NGOs have warned of the blockade imposed by the occupation. Media outlets have spoken about the Zionist laws imposed on the work of NGOs and arguing that they can threaten the U.S. brokered deal. The media have also highlighted that the U.S. administration and its indulgence with the Zionist government also contribute with a great deal in the latest Zionist position.
The occupation also failed to uphold its humanitarian obligations by allowing only 19,764 trucks to enter Gaza out of the 48,000 trucks that were supposed to enter between October the 10th and December 28th. This represents a daily average of only 253 trucks out of the 600 trucks allocated daily.
Probability of opening new front lines of the Zionist army with Lebanon have also been considered by media and analysts as a new phase for delaying the second phase of the agreement. Observers have warned of further conditions that the entity can put on the table to fulfill the agreement. Thus, the entire region remains skeptical and concerned whether the Zionist leadership is willing to put the agreement into action to the fullest at a time when more conflicts appear on the horizon. With the completion of the second phase, or even without, the people of the Gaza Strip endure the suffering on a daily basis. Over 2 million people have lived one of the most aggressive wars in the modern history of humanity, while the world still lives the dream of stability in the Middle East that apparently only the Zionist entity can realize.
A Palestinian was killed and another wounded by Zionist occupation forces fire at dawn on Thursday south of Nablus. The occupied West Bank. Media outlets citing Palestinian sources reported that occupation forces opened fire on a Palestinian youth in the village of Al-Luban, Al-Shariqiyya, south of Nablus, leading to his death from his injuries, while another person was wounded while attempting to rescue him. The Tunisian President Kais Saied reaffirmed his country's steadfast position on the Palestinian cause. In an address to the Tunisian people on the occasion of the New Year, Wednesday evening, Saied stressed that Tunisia remains firmly committed to supporting the Palestinian people's right to establish a fully sovereign independent state over all of Palestine with Al-Quds as its capital.
ولن ننسى في هذه اللحظة.
We will not forget, at this moment and at every moment, our brothers in Palestine. Our position is our position, unchanged. The right of the Palestinian people to establish their independent, fully sovereign state in all of Palestine, with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital.
Now in Yemen, the Presidential Leadership Council Chairman Rashid al-Alimi warned against the undermining recent sovereign decisions, stressing they aim to protect civilians and prevent a forced fait accompli. He noted the Southern Transitional Council failed to responsibly use deadlines to normalize Hadramaut and Al-Mahra, prompting the state, in coordination with the coalition, to support legitimacy to take decisive measures. The European Union warned that recent developments in Yemen's Hadramaut and Al-Mahra governorates pose new risks to the Gulf stability, calling for an end to escalation and reaffirming its commitment to Yemen's unity, sovereignty and support for the Presidential Leadership Council and government.
The European Union calls for the cessation of escalation and for avoidance steps that would increase the threats targeting the stability of Yemen and the region. It reaffirms its strong commitment to the unity, sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Yemen, as well as supporting the Presidential Leadership Council and the Yemeni government.
And turning to Sudan, the Transitional Sovereignty Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said victory is near, with the armed forces set to liberate Darfur, Kordofan, and the entire country. Speaking on Independence Day, he called on all Sudanese to unite in confronting the existential crisis or war that has brought society together, echoing their ancestors' fight against colonial occupation.
معركة الكرامة الوجودية.
The existential battle for dignity that we are all waging, the honest and loyal Sudanese people, without exception. This battle united us and united our existence. We assure you, our citizens, wherever you are, in Darfur, in Kordofan, that victory is coming and that the Sudanese are coming to you just as they gathered in this place in 1885 from the east, west, south, and north of Sudan and expelled the colonizer. And in 1956 as well, they flocked from all parts of Sudan to the same place and expel the occupier. We will surely gather here again as Sudanese, and we will celebrate the expulsion of the rebels and traitors from our country.
And in the same context, al-Burhan added that the doors to national reconciliation remain open, saying that anyone who wishes to join the homeland and the voice of truth is welcome, and urging all to work diligently toward building the Sudanese state. Let's take a listen.
The door is still open, and the doors of national reconciliation are still wide open. We welcome all those who wish to join the voice of the nation and the truth. We tell them that this homeland is vast and can host everyone. We will work relentlessly to lay the foundation of the state of Sudan, the state of citizenship.
The Sudanese army announced the killing of hundreds of Rapid Support Forces fighters during battles that enable it to control or to regain control of the strategic Al-Rahad area in North Kordofan state. Sources in the Sudanese army told Al-24 News on Thursday that the armed forces and allied units inflicted losses exceeding 500 fighters on the Rapid Support Forces during extensive sweep operations in the Al-Rahad Abu Dakhna area, which is now under army control after having been used by Hamiti's forces to supply weapons and reinforcements. The death toll from Rapid Support Forces shelling and a drone attack on the Liling, South Kordofan last Tuesday has risen to at least 72, including women and children. Survivors face dire health and security conditions, and some bodies have yet to reach hospitals, suggesting the toll may increase. The United Nations extended operations at the Adre border crossing between Chad and Sudan for 3 months, allowing more humanitarian aid into Darfur. OCHA called access through Adre crossing critical to saving lives, while U.S. Senior Advisor Mossad Boulos urged all Sudanese parties to honor commitments and ensure unhindered aid entry. The Polisario Front has filed a legal challenge before the European Court against the EU-Morocco trade agreement covering products from Western Sahara, which entered provisional force on October 3rd. Abi Bouchraya al-Bashir, Polisario's UN representative, said the agreement violates the EU Court of Justice ruling of October 4, 2024, and circumvents the Sahrawi people's right to consent and self-determination.
The Polisario Front, as the sole and legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people, and by virtue of its legal personality, which entitles it to plead before European judicial bodies in defense of the rights of the Sahrawi people, filed an appeal on December 28, 2025, before the General Court of the European Union against the latest trade agreement signed between the European Union and the Kingdom of Morocco, adopted under a provisional application framework. The new agreement adopts the territorial and administrative divisions imposed by the Moroccan occupation authorities instead of recognizing Western Sahara as the country of origin.
The Sahrawi official Abu Bushraya Bashir stated that the European Commission and Morocco negotiated the latest trade agreement not only behind the backs of the Sahrawi people, but also without involvement of the European Parliament.
The European Commission and Morocco negotiated the latest trade agreement not only behind the back of the Sahrawi people and their sole and legitimate representative, the Polisario Front, but also without the involvement of the European Parliament. This move provoked the latter's anger, bringing it to the brink of addressing the issue of product labeling. The Polisario Front will continue its legal, diplomatic and media battle to affirm and enforce the Sahrawi people's sovereignty over their natural resources and to thwart efforts to finance Morocco's continued occupation of Western Sahara.
And the Sahrawi Association of Victims of Grave Human Rights Violations condemned Morocco's occupation policies in Western Sahara, accusing it of seizing land and stripping Sahrawis of their rights. The association said forced administrative and legal measures favor settlers and Moroccan companies.
The systematic policy of depriving Sahrawis of their land and stripping them of their historical and legal rights has become a tool of plunder and the legitimization of seizure through the disregard of international law and established norms, and the imposition of laws and administrative measures lacking any international or legal legitimacy. This constitutes a blatant violation of the right to property, international humanitarian law, and international human rights law.
And in Ukraine, more than 20 people were killed and dozens injured in an attack carried out by Ukrainian forces using drones on a hotel and a cafe in Kherson province. Russia's Sputnik news agency, citing what it calls the governor of Kherson, Vladimir Saldo, reported that 24 people were killed, including a child, and that more than 50 others were wounded, adding that many were burned alive, according to preliminary data. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday that Russia began the new year by continuing its war against Ukraine after launching more than 200 drones toward the country. In statements posted on social media, Zelensky said that Russia's targets during these attacks were Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
Мій підпис на пастка Україні не потрібна. Підписи під слабкими угодами тільки підживлюють війну. Мій підпис стоятиме під сильною угодою. Мінська ювелірно виписана пастка
Ukraine does not need a Minsk-style, meticulously drafted trap. Signatures under weak agreements only fuel war. My signature will be under a strong agreement, and that is exactly what every meeting, every call, every decision is about right now, to secure a strong peace for everyone. Not for a day, not for a week, not for 2 months, peace for years. Only then will it truly be a success. For Ukraine, for America, for Europe, and in truth, for every nation that wants to live, not to fight.
Also, President Volodymyr Zelensky said he will not sign a weak peace agreement that merely prolongs the conflict. In a New Year's address, he stressed that while Ukrainians are exhausted after nearly 4 years of fighting, longer than the German occupation of many cities in World War II, they refuse to surrender.
The peace agreement is 90% ready. 10% remains. This 10% contains everything. In fact, it is the 10% that will determine the fate of peace, the fate of Ukraine and of Europe.
Zelensky added in the video message posted on Telegram that a peace agreement is 90% ready, noting that the remaining 10% will determine the fate of peace and the future of Ukraine and Europe, as he said. The United States imposed sanctions on 4 companies and several oil tankers linked to Venezuela's oil sector, accusing them of helping to evade sanctions imposed in favor of President Nicolas Maduro's government. The U.S. Treasury Department said some of the targeted vessels belong to what is known as the Shadow Fleet. The move comes as part of Trump administration's escalation of pressure on Venezuela, which has also included strengthening military presence and carrying out strikes targeting vessels suspected of involvement in drug trafficking. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said the country's economic situation is good despite sanctions and challenges. In his New Year's message, Maduro said Venezuela is emerging from more than a decade of sanctions and is in an ideal position to face new challenges, pledging to boost technological and military development to ensure national sovereignty.
Impuesto hace una década.
The growth figures of our real economy under conditions of siege, attack, and imperialist blockade confirm a greater truth. We are overcoming the siege imposed a decade ago, and we are in all optimal position to face all new challenges with greater preparation, more work, more creativity, more experience, and the perfect unity of an entire country that produces and works.
And to wrap up on a lighter note, in 2025, artificial intelligence moved from the lab into everyday life, becoming a tool and a partner for thought and decision-making. More details with Nabil Khazini.
In 2025, artificial intelligence became part of the background of everyday life. Not a spectacle, not a mystery, just another tool people used to get through the day. Perhaps 2025 may well be remembered as the year AI became most widely used, yet the conversation about it still has more questions than answers. It's all about balance, responsibility, and how can technology actually serve the public good.
I think the really important thing is that this technology has a great potential to make things more efficient, more productive, to improve living conditions. The question is, will it do so on an equal basis? So will it do so for everybody? And right now we see cleavages opening up, be it between superpowers or be it between family members or be it between people on the countryside and in big cities. And I think the big challenge is to close these cleavages, to have everybody have a fair say in the development of this technology and also in working with this technology.
Artificial intelligence is increasingly seen as a companion for thought, a tool for reflection, and a partner in helping us understand the world more clearly. But in 2025, its influence reached surprising new levels. Even the most human of spaces, politics, is feeling that impact. Meet Diela, Albania's AI-generated minister, speaking before a parliament made up entirely of human lawmakers. Yes, this is the extent artificial intelligence reached in 2025. A story not of machines taking control, but of societies learning to integrate powerful tools thoughtfully, responsibly, and very carefully in a way that serves people first.
Pretty obvious. It looks like a person. It's walking around, dancing, boxing, doing all these things. It's fascinating. That's why I think the interest is there. Now, the question is it going to be the form factor of the future? Do they do enough valuable work to not just be a sideshow?
Even as we imagine the future with AI, careful questions must be asked today. Who designs these systems and what values are built into them?
The end of our program. If you missed any part, you can check it out on our social media platforms. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.